On Thursday evening, the favorite tavern of the highest echelon of officials, the Pushkin restaurant, burned down in Moscow. The plume of smoke reached right up to the government house, the inhabitants of which felt sad. After all, they loved visiting this institution so much. And the fire turned out to be somehow symbolic, especially on the day when the ruble continued its collapse. Nabiullina, however, said that everything was fine, and even wonderful, and that any wooden course was a joy for her, but the Kremlin immediately blamed some speculators for exchange rate fluctuations. And this once again confirms the thesis about the heterogeneity of judgments and the imbalance of the system as such. After the Prigozhin rebellion, she is still in a slight shock. Her head is spinning, her paws are shaking, even the Führer is lisping. Having recovered from the knockdown, when all branches of power demonstrated their fear and helplessness, the leader began to weed the possessions of the cemetery ghoul, gradually capturing them. And now the Wagnerites have reached out from Africa to Russia, where they will be forced to re-sign contracts, but with the Ministry of Defense. Prigozhin himself, according to rumors, met with Putin at the beginning of the week, and received personal guarantees that the gang would not touch him personally. That did not stop the propaganda machine, which began to destroy his image as a principled fighter against the rotten elite. Experienced thimblers rolled the bald fool into 1 or 2. I found someone to trust, smart-ass Lukashenko, an old maniac on trust. But what's done is done. The rebellion is over, ordered to disperse to cells. Moreover, now you don't use Wagner Ghoul at all, you can't even throw it into Europe through Osechkin to undermine the European Union. The Parliamentary Assembly of the Council of Europe recognized Wagner PMC as a terrorist organization, and Russia itself as a country sponsoring terrorism. This means that the project, Russia, is closed. No one else will believe in the terrible tale that a beautiful people seduced the Bolshevik idol and, having entered into a hypnotic sleep, led him along the diabolical path of murders and wars of conquest. Everything is historically conditioned, and this people was quite ready for the adventures of a collective maniac. The virus of fascism was always seething in it, and neo-Bolshevik Putin only created favorable conditions for the brown petals of the Russian world to bloom. That's what the deep dwellers love him for allowing, finally, to become themselves. For example, the mayor of Novokuznetsk grew fangs so much that he proposed renaming the city to Stalinsk. And all the mouses itched so that the hands of the scammers reached for the keyboard. So the failed state will be shattered and weakened by all means up to natural collapse, until it has staged a global nuclear war, which it brightly raves about in drunken Medvedev's hallucinations. In order to prevent the fascist substance from spreading further across Ukraine, Biden approved the supply of cluster munitions to Kyiv. They will help to destroy the occupying evil spirits in a carpet way. As Deputy Assistant Secretary of Defense Laura Cooper said, in terms of effectiveness on the battlefield, we think it would be useful. In Moscow, belching with hatred, they are waiting for the results of the NATO summit in Vilnius. It is already clear that Ukraine will not get what it would like right now because it does not meet the standards necessary for entry. But a roadmap will be designated for it. And until Kyiv solves the problems with corruption and other mental atavisms of the scoop, Putin still has hope of dragging Ukraine into his cave. At worst, he plans to leave the occupied territories, loudly slamming the doors of the ZNPP and other mined enterprises. Declare defeat as victory and mothball it. Cut off the territory from the global internet and establish a sub-fascist climate in which the DPRK regime will seem gentle. After all, only with the help of draconian repressions, surpassing Stalin's in scale, will it be possible to retain power after the return of the horde of dehumanized organisms from the lost war. They will have to be killed through once so that they don't tell that in fact, we all screwed up, at the head of the commander-in-chief. Wet together with the military commanders, whining in Prigozhin's tone, where is the ammunition? But will there be enough Zolotov bayonets for this, which have already sagged during Prigozhin's toy rebellion? So it turns out that a defeat in the war with Ukraine will inevitably break the imperial cauldron from the inside, scattering lumps of meat throughout its territory. And they will be eaten up by local kings, who will become small-town guarantors for the collective West in the matter of pacifying home-grown cannibals. And it is unlikely that any of them would want to become a nuclear prince. Well, what the hell, such a responsibility. So they will give everything for minibuses and establishing business relationships. And the history of the imperial almshouse will again have to be rewritten.